All right. Well, just take me through how life post Ahmed Hassanin is for your room.
Yeah, I've had this question before. The room is really gelling together, and the leadership of Jaden Bergeron stepping up and taking over. Ahmed leaving, and you got different guys are stepping up in that room, and trying to make sure we can help out. With the departure of Ahmed, which is not an easy task, but it's been good with the leadership of Jaden and what he's doing in that room.
How nice is it, to have that leadership? I have a guy like Jaden who has, played at the biggest stage or played at the biggest
Yeah.
level. It had success.
Yeah, that comes with confidence. As one thing that you see with Jaden now is the confidence that he has in himself, in his game and in his leadership role. And he's been stepping up each and every day. And the guys look up to him. And I always say this: when you're able to make plays on the football field, guys are like, okay, I want to look after that guy. So guys have been able to look after Jay, and he's been doing a good job of making sure he shows through his work. And that's one thing I've been on him. It's like, don't lose your edge, show through your words or work of what you're doing and what type of leader you are.
How's he embracing kind of being the guy that now defenses will focus on and try to isolate and try to keep away from the quarterback?
Yeah, and he's just been the guy that's been putting in the work constantly, day in and day out. He had a really good spring in terms of, in the weight room. He's put on some weight, more mass, put on more strength, and I feel even more explosive now. And so he knows the role that he's going to have this year. It's similar to the role that May had going into his senior year in terms of guys know who you are now. And so, how do you handle that? Well, you have to put in the work so when you step on the football field that what's going to come off of that.
Was there a time in practice or in workouts where you really kind of saw that power really come to fruition and say, okay, he's even taken a step up from where he was last year?
Yeah, I would say this last scrimmage, where you look at the last scrimmage with Jaden, it was things that, what we've been trying to work throughout the off season of, okay, this guy now has even more confidence in himself. But as Coach G always say, like, the guys that show it in the scrimmage are usually the guys that practice at a high level, and he practices at a high level each and every day. And so I see it constantly day in and day out in meetings. His attention to detail is dialed in, and he's asking great questions. He's helping out the younger guys, and so overall he's taking over that role. But I would definitely say this last scrimmage, he showed, okay, yeah, that's the guy you want to be.
What do you see on his pick six?
Yeah, he caught it with one hand. That's the first thing, so I was happy about that. But we don't work many ball drills. We work more striking than pass rush, so he was able to catch it. The excitement he had in his face, but the excitement that the defense had, and our goal is to create takeaways.
Now, other guys, I guess Max will kind of be on the other end of him. Kind of how's he really kind of stepping up, and I don't know if he's going to be a starter or not this fall,
Yeah.
but kind of really kind of positioning himself for that role.
Yeah, but you look at last year with Max. We talked about this: 186 plays, 4.5 sacks, and so he has game experience and true game experience, and so that's something that we feel good about with Max. And he's another one guy similar to Ahmed, where those guys just work. They have no other option, and those guys they're here every day. They work extremely hard, and so Max is doing a good job of showing up each and every day, putting in the work, and he's out there making plays. And then you have Malachi with him on that side that's doing a good job, transfer that came in here, and so great competition on that side. It's going to take a lot to replace Ahmed, but both of those guys are doing a really good job in learning the scheme and growing in the scheme.
Malachi, it's interesting you bring him up. He's a guy who I don't think has been mentioned by anybody this spring. It's just almost like he's a forgotten transfer. What's his level going to be like? How ready is he to really step in for you guys?
You look at Malachi, a guy that was all conference in that conference over there. And he's learning the system right now, and so he's growing and learning the system, learning the plays, and getting the feel of how you play at this level. We demand a lot on our D-line edge guys, and so he's filling in and he's doing a good job.
Now that Jake's kind of moving a little bit back to linebacker, is he still playing D end or edge for you guys, or is he? What's kind of his role? Do you envision being?
We talk about putting the best 11 on the football field. Jake is doing a really good job, but he is also still playing a little bit of edge, and so he's learning that the linebacker position, which is a better feel for him, and he likes it a little bit more. But he's doing a good job at that position right now.
If he can't go at edge for you guys, who do you kind of have back in Max and Malachi and Jaden up?
Yeah, you got Roman Kaywood, that's doing a really good job, and you got Bobo, who's a younger guy that's taking a lot of reps, an early enrollee who's been impressive with the guys we see out there, and so we have a long list of guys that we can pull from, and it's about developing those guys. So as spring goes, you develop those guys so they have more confidence when they go into the summer, and then when you get the summer, you go into fall camp, and so by the time you hit fall camp, those guys have confidence in themselves that they can go out there and do it on the field.
Both those guys are freshmen, redshirt freshmen. Yeah. How exciting is it to really, develop it, kind of like the way you guys did with Jaden?
Yeah, for me, and that's why I got into coaching, is to develop these young men, not just as football players, but as men. And so just seeing, for a prime example, Jaden coming from a freshman who, was learning the game, played a lot of different positions in high school, and then you go into his redshirt sophomore year and he has 10 sacks, and so how can I continue to help him get to the next level? Because it's not what I do, it's what those guys do, it's the work that they put in. And so, two young freshmen that can come in here, develop in the weight room, and then take it to the football field is, huge for us.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks a lot.